Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the 44th Colorado Water Workshop under very different conditions. First of all, when it was founded in the 70s, it was the only water workshop in Colorado. And now, and I think this is a good sign for human discourse around a vital resource. There's, I think, 11 in the state now. And so with this year's theme of resilience and with adaptation being part of resilience, I think we should all commend Dr. Jeff Sellen and his team for the level of adaptation they've shown, both in the face of there being so many workshops out there that he's adapted to make it a little more student focused around the Water Futures Games, and also for adapting to the COVID era, holding a workshop that in the mid-70s could not even have imagined this, even in a sci-fi movie. And bringing us all together in this way. So kudos to Dr. Sellen and his team, everybody. I quite like the title for this year's workshop that Jeff put together, Western Water and Community Resilience in a Changing Climate. And I think when we think about the intersections of water, resilience, and climate, it's a really right time to be thinking about all three terms. And COVID has given us a kind of microscope through which to look at that intersection in a very close way. When it comes to some recent research on climate change, we're seeing some really hopeful evidence of a shift in public opinion toward buying into the science of anthropogenic climate change. It's up to now around 70% of Americans, about 12 percentage points higher than just a couple of years ago. We're also seeing that shift in the Republican Party itself. One of the things that's very interesting, though, is there's another study from about a year and a half ago that shows that on the right end of the political spectrum, as climate science education increases, resistance to climate change solutions increases. And, you know, people are sort of theorizing, trying to figure out what does that mean? That as folks become on the conservative end of the spectrum, as they become more educated, they become more resistant to the solutions. And a lot of it has to do with as you become more educated on climate science, you start to see the writing on the wall for deeper issues in the American psyche. You start to see the writing on the wall for what does that mean for my individual liberties in terms of my level of consumption of goods? What does that mean for the role of government in my life? In terms of carbon tax or whatever that might mean. And I think we've seen the same thing with COVID, that so quickly there's been a political divide. It's not necessarily a denial of the science, right? Liberal and conservative are getting family members who are becoming sick. It's more about what happens once you start to take that science seriously and realize that, yeah, you're going to give something up. This is my office now. I'm not able to go out to my favorite restaurants. I'm not able to gather with loved ones. And I have to start to accept public health officials having a role in my life. And so I think there's a real commonality between COVID and climate change right now in terms of as we come to accept the science in our lives more about these disruptions, how do we come together around the solutions? Because right now, acceptance of the science is dividing people around the solutions. And so when you look at climate change and water issues, you know, we all know 75% of the Colorado River Basin's water comes from snowpack. We're seeing projections of a over 25% decline in snowpack if we have about a 3 degrees Celsius increase this century. That science is not being denied. But what we do about it, how we build resilience as communities in the face of that shock of declining snowpack, declining water from climate change, we got to come together. And it's an exciting moment to have more and more people accepting the science. But 5 years ago, a lot of us thought, oh, once we all accept the science, we'll all shift to solutions and be more resilient. Not the case. And so I hope we can take that seriously this year and actually use the COVID moment to really think in a focused way around just because we agree on the source doesn't mean we agree on the solutions. So looking forward to learning from all of you about water, climate resilience in the COVID era. And I welcome all of you to Western. My name is John Hausdorfer. I'm the Dean of the School of Environment and Sustainability, and it's truly an honor to host you. So thank you, Max.
All right, Jeff, would you like to?
Um, I'm Jeff Sellen, and I'm the director of the Colorado Water Workshop, which has, as Dr. Hausdorfer mentioned, a long history going back to the 1970s, created originally by Dwayne Vandenbush, a professor at Western Colorado University, and local attorney Dick Bratton, to develop a stronger voice for Western Slope perspectives on water. And it's had a strong influence, I think, on the water discussion in Colorado and in the West. Last year, we decided to go in quite a different direction by focusing more on younger people, students, and early career professionals, and to make it a more engaging conference. And we rechristened it the Western Water Futures Games. Had a great year last year, expected to continue that this year. As you can see, we are continuing it, but in a quite unexpected way. I just want to commend a group of students who have been preparing for this, preparing originally for hosting you all in Gunnison. They, as part of a class project, began to develop and rethink the Western Water Futures Games. And then they really had to rethink it when we went online. And those students, Max Sawyer, who has been so important in developing this year's Western Water Futures Games. In addition to Max, Maddie Hart, Tucker Handy, Preston Russell, Chris Maderi, and Parker Van Landingham all have been just great at developing what we'll see here in the next 2 days. Also, let me mention Zach Dutra, who was not officially a part of that group, but has been very much a part of the planning for the Western Water Futures Games. Finally, I just wanted to give a great big shout out and thanks to the Upper Gunnison River Water Conservancy District, a friend to the Water Workshop for many decades, and they continue to sponsor us, and they are our sponsor this year. So thank you, Sonia and the Upper Gunnison River Water Conservancy District. Sonia will be speaking later on in the games. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Max Sawyer.
Thank you, Jeff. Yeah, so thank you, John, as well for those remarks. We'd like to welcome you all to the 2020 Water Futures Games. As Jeff said, it's the new face of the Colorado Water Workshop. Thanks again to the Upper Gunnison River Water Conservancy District and the Western Colorado University School of Environment and Sustainability for sponsoring the workshop this year. We're disappointed that we cannot have you here to join us in the Gunnison Valley in person, but we're glad that you came to join us virtually. It's been a tremendous effort by students and staff to transition this conference online, and we would like to thank all of our speakers for being so accommodating throughout this whole process. This year, we want to reiterate the goal of last year's successful games and our desire over the next 2 days to connect and educate students, young professionals, and members of the water resource and management community in order to promote resilience and action going forward in the face of water challenges. With the theme of this year's games being Western water and community resilience in a changing climate, our speakers will share their perspectives on the resilience of our current water systems and how we might build resilience as we move forward. We encourage participants to share their contact information via the chat function so that important discussions can take place after the conference is over. I'm going to take a few minutes now to review some Zoom etiquette and virtual conference rules, as well as the format and schedule of the conference today so that we're all on the same page. We ask that you please keep your video and microphones off so we don't disrupt our speakers. There will be a question and answer session following each speaker if there is time left over. Please post your questions in the chat box, and moderators, either myself or Maddie Hart, will ask them to the speaker, and we'll try and answer as many as we can. During our break periods in the schedule, we encourage participants to get up and move around so you're not sitting in front of your computer for the entire day, but we will be playing video clips off of YouTube in lieu of our standard field trips. We know that audio might not work as well as we hope, but I will post the URLs for the videos in the chat box so that you can view them later if you so desire. Our first video starting at 12:45 will showcase last year's conference. So today's schedule showcases our agricultural panel to start off. It's titled Agriculture and Water Use in a Changing Climate. It is followed by our policy panel titled Consumer Water Supply Management and Adaptations and Solutions. Tomorrow we'll dive further into the resiliency, looking forward into the future with our big ideas and pragmatic solutions conversation. We chose agriculture to kick off the conference this year because of the importance of agriculture, ranching, and farming to the economy of Colorado and of the entire West. In Colorado, agriculture is a $40 billion industry and the dominant water user in the state, accounting for 86% of total water diversions. However, growing demands from competing water needs, such as population growth, threaten to reduce irrigated farming and ranching in the coming decades. To minimize that reduction and maintain the values of agriculture, we require increasing connectivity and collaboration from agriculture water users, policymakers, and typical water users alike. Today, we hope to increase awareness and spark creative solutions pertaining to our limited natural resource in the face of a changing climate, and where we are seeing earlier and reduced peak runoffs. We have a couple minutes before I introduce the Parkers from Parker Pastures, so if you have any questions in the next 3 minutes, put them in the chat. And thank you again for joining us today, and hopefully we can return to our non-virtual conference setting next year here at Western.